Welcome to Destiny's Not Dead podcast episode 2. This is the one about patch 1.1.4, aka the Go Faster patch. Just going to talk a little bit about what my experience has been with that patch, how I feel about it, what it should be perceived as, and you know what to look forward to in the future. So right off the bat, I want to clear something up that has been bugging me. A lot of people are like, "Hey, it's good, but it's not bringing me back to the game." Well, I don't think that this patch was meant to bring anyone back to the game. It's not the goal of it. The goal was to implement some incremental changes that would certainly benefit quality of life overall in the game, but it is meant as a stepping stone in the direction of that almighty, hey, we've got Destiny where we want it. For those of you that are saying, it's not enough to bring me back, that's 100% okay. And even if it was designed to bring you back and it didn't bring you back, that's okay too. So I don't want anyone to feel like any twinge of like remorse, like they felt like that they didn't like it as much as they should have, or like they out-hyped it or something. Nor do I want people to have this idea that it was fair to expect that. Like they were supposed to expect that this update was going to be the one. It's like, nah, even Bungie was like, hey, we're really excited about this. We think there's some cool changes in here. But we know we got a lot more of work to do. They've remained relatively humble on the whole subject, in my opinion. But again, it's just my opinion. So, with that being said, I'm not going to go through patch notes or nothing like that. There's plenty of places you can go to get that, like Bungie's website. But I'll just kind of go over my impressions. Most weapons feel better or the same. In other words, nothing feels like worse off for the update, in my opinion, in terms of weapons, but an infinite more weapons feel better, meaning especially in PvE, but also in PvP, there's a much wider range of variety that I can comfortably employ when I'm deciding how I want to do something. I haven't felt like that in a very long time. So I'm really stoked on the idea that I'm able to use more and more types of weapons for different situations, and I can have fun again. Of course, as I'm sitting here using a pulse rifle, an auto rifle, and still a rocket launcher technically, but it's just because I haven't used the Wardiff coil in a bit. So, essentially, that for me is like one of the biggest changes in terms of the player experience, right? I feel like we're at a point where we need to be able to have as much freedom when picking things, without it being about weapons being exactly the same in terms of effectiveness, because that would be boring too. I feel like we need to commit to, some kind of a balance where you're looking less about the power of the weapon and more about the application. Like what's the weapon for? What's the weapon good at doing? And what task are you trying to perform? And I really feel like for the first time in terms of weapon balancing, we're getting a lot closer to that. And I'm really excited by that. And what I mean is that, I don't want to like have to look at a Uriel's gift or anything because it's super like crazy overpowered compared to everything else. And thankfully, that's not really what we're seeing. We're seeing some things are a bit more effective than others. Like Vigilance Wing has kind of stepped up as being something that's really up there. Hand cannons certainly are a bit deadlier than they were before. But I also feel like some of the reason though those are being used is the sheer excitement of being able to use them effectively again. So I don't think this is a case of anything being OP. Although one cannot deny the stopping power of Vigilance Wing. I feel like we've gotten to this point where we're approaching a true weapon balance, and we're not there yet because this next patch 1.2 for exotics, that'll kind of not necessarily level the playing field, but it'll give even more player choice. So going on to like something about like the other parts of the patch that I like, just in general, like the parts of the patch. I feel like from what little I've gathered, Nightfall rewards are kind of disappointing. I haven't gotten any of them yet myself. But what I know about them is like, it seems a little lean. But it is definitely something more to go after, especially if you're a collector. is it that kind of loot that really fuels you to go in and do the thing over and over and over again? Depends upon who you are. Me personally, the stuff that I've seen, I'm not that interested in because it's mostly cosmetic and one weapon of a type that I don't typically use. So with that in mind, for me, it's not compelling, but I'm still going to chase after it. Just not with the fervor I would if it were something else. The movement is a big thing for me. As a Titan main, I feel like this was a really good patch for Titans because we got our beloved shoulder charge back. Movement speed is better, which is something all classes needed, but especially Titans, in my opinion. And I also feel like, the other subclasses got a pretty good shake in terms of Dawnblade and certainly Arcstrider, because it is definitely huge improvements to both of those. I feel like it's a bit better. I would like to see other subclasses given a bit more of a shake. But as it is, I feel like we're looking at, again, this is all a good start. But I can certainly see some holes where there needs to be more done. There needs to be more done. But, it's a good thing that this wasn't marketed as any kind of, wow, that guy flew. It's a good thing that this wasn't marketed as any sort of a definitive patch. And I keep repeating myself because that's the thing you hear the most, is that this rhetoric that seems to, impress, like this is somehow meant to be like Destiny 2.0 was. And it's like, no, it's not what it's about. They were just excited to unveil some cool changes. And for the most part, they delivered on what they promised. Maybe the degree of speed influence, wasn't there. Like, for example, I don't understand why when you mess with mobility, why it does not affect sprint. I do not understand that at all. It makes zero sense. Because I feel like to really kind of get a better handle on feeling faster, that would be the first place I would go. And I wonder if there's a reason that isn't being done, or is it something that they feel would break gameplay, or is it something in the programming that keeps it from happening? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that, and I hope that we get an answer. I did see some news over the weekend where we're going to get some more answers on weapon slots. We're going to get some definitive answers on that, as well as random rolls. That came from the man himself, Chris, who's leading the live team. So I know we're in good hands, and I'm as impatient as anybody else, but I do my best to keep some perspective on what's really going on with the game right now. I'm having a lot more fun than I was 2 weeks ago, and I love the idea of having rotating Crucible modes again. I will tell you that Rumble was a lot of fun. Needs work. They're looking at all the balancing for it, but it definitely needs polish. I'm not sure why it shipped the way that it did, except to say that I think they knew they had something that was stable enough to release and wanted to wait until they got player feedback before they made any drastic changes. In other words, I think they knew they were going to have some work with Rumble because of the way that it is not really in line with where Destiny 2's PvP was. And so I think it's wise to let the player base say, here's what we don't like. I think that was smart. Mayhem, I haven't touched it just yet, but I'm looking forward to it. And 6v6 Iron Banner next week. Ooh, mama. I cannot wait for that. Cannot wait. So overall, I feel like we've got some cool things, to play with. A lot more player variety, which we needed. But just like with anything else, it makes you hungry for more. As soon as you get it, you're like, nom, that was really good. Now I want more. And I think it's okay to want more. But I don't want to encourage the discussion of, well, I want more, therefore this patch failed at being itself. It's like, no, it's not accurate. So if you have that thought in your head, maybe get it in check, in my opinion. Be reasonable. We've got a 1.2 patch coming up. which is coming up in May. And looks like, by all accounts, May 8th is going to be when that drops, based upon some information I saw. It was confirmed by the French version of the website for Bungie. And I saw it in the video with Houndish, a couple other people pointed out. Mesa Sean, I think, too. So May 8th looks to be when that patch is going to drop, which is not a long time. It's barely a month. And given that we have some activities to tide us over in the meantime, hey, not the worst thing in the world. And we don't know everything that patch is going to include. It could be a hell of a lot of stuff on top of the exotic changes, and there could be other sandbox changes and so forth. So ultimately, I think we're in good hands. 1.1.4 is a lot of fun. It doesn't perfect the game, but it certainly gives some polish to a much needed state of the game, if you will. So my name's Grindhead Jim. This has been Destiny's Not Dead. You can catch us over on Twitter at Destiny's Not Dead. You can get us at destinysnotdead.com and also twitch.tv/Destiny's Not Dead. If you have a question or an idea for an episode of the podcast, please submit it to Twitter. I'll get back to you as soon as I can, let you know if we're going to use it. And for live recordings, be sure to check out twitch.tv/GrindheadJim. Destiny is not dead. I'm very much alive, and I hope you are too. Take care. I'm out.